The American dream is being quietly rewritten, and the four-year college degree is no longer the unquestioned golden ticket it once was. More and more Americans are asking a blunt question: is a bachelor's degree actually worth the price tag anymore? And this is the part most people miss. The skepticism isn't just coming from those who skipped college, it's increasingly coming from people who went. Americans have grown deeply skeptical about one of the classic pillars of upward mobility in the United States, the traditional four-year college degree. Where a diploma once symbolized a clear path to a better life, higher pay, and social respect, a large share of the public now sees it as an overpriced gamble that often delivers debt instead of opportunity. According to a recent national poll of registered voters, nearly two-thirds say a four-year college education is not worth the cost. Only about 1 in 3 still believes that earning a bachelor's degree is worth it because it improves the chances of landing a good job and boosting lifetime earnings. The larger group now resonates more with a very different view, that many graduates leave school burdened by substantial student loans and without the specific skills employers actually want. This marks a sharp reversal from a decade ago, when Americans were much more evenly split. Back in 2013, when a similar question was asked, a majority said a degree was worth the money and a smaller share said it was not. A few years later, opinions were still close to evenly divided. Today, that balance has tipped decisively, reflecting a roughly 20-point drop in the share of people who think college pays off financially. That is an unusually rapid shift in public attitudes towards something that once felt like a settled truth. A core belief under pressure. For decades, a four-year degree has been treated as a central stepping stone in the American dream. Many parents told their children that college was the surest way to secure a stable, well-paying future. Now, that certainty has eroded. Some political and survey researchers describe the change as remarkable because it touches a belief that used to be almost sacred, that college is aspirational and reliably opens doors. What makes this shift especially striking is that it is broad-based. It is not just coming from people who never attended college or who feel left out of the higher education system. People across education levels, age groups, and political backgrounds have become more doubtful. In other words, this is not a niche frustration, it's a mainstream rethinking of what college represents. The numbers still favor degrees, on paper. Here is where the story gets more complicated, and potentially controversial. National labor statistics continue to show that, on average, people with higher levels of education tend to earn more money and face lower unemployment than those with less schooling. That general pattern has held true for many years and across different economic cycles. From a purely data-driven perspective, advanced degrees still correlate with better job outcomes and income over time. Economists frequently point out that, on average, the college wage premium, the extra earnings associated with a degree, remains real. Yet, despite this, many Americans feel that the individual risk and cost have grown so large that the traditional promise no longer feels trustworthy. The cost explosion, the real game changer. If the potential benefits of college haven't entirely disappeared, what has changed so drastically? The short answer is cost. Tuition and related expenses have increased dramatically over the past few decades, far outpacing inflation and wage growth for many families. When adjusted for inflation, the average in-state tuition at public four-year colleges has roughly doubled since the mid-1990s. Over the same period, tuition at private four-year institutions has risen by about 3/4. Even though there have been some recent, modest declines or slower growth in listed prices, the overall long-term trend still leaves students and families staring down daunting bills. Lived experiences behind the statistics. Poll respondents who spoke in more detail frequently pointed to rising costs and debt as the main reason they questioned the value of a bachelor's degree. Their stories give a human face to the broader numbers. Jacob Kennedy, a 28-year-old server and bartender in Detroit who holds a 2-year degree, says he genuinely values education and sees an informed, well-educated population as critical for a healthy country. Yet he feels that when degrees come paired with heavy student loans that graduates struggle to repay, the real-world value of that education gets undercut. He has met many people in restaurants and bars who earned four-year degrees, tried so-called grown-up jobs for a short time, and then returned to the service industry because the pay was not enough to manage their debt and living costs. In his view, the cost overwhelms the value. People take on significant student loans expecting higher-paying jobs, but then discover their starting salaries cannot realistically cover both daily expenses and loan payments. That financial mismatch can push them back into jobs they had before college, raising painful questions about whether the whole journey was worthwhile. A partisan shift with a twist. One of the most eye-catching parts of this changing attitude is the political breakdown. Across almost every demographic, fewer people now say college is worth the price. But the decline has been especially steep among Republicans. In 2013, most Republicans still saw a four-year degree as a good investment. A smaller share disagreed. Today, those numbers have nearly flipped. Only a minority of Republicans say a bachelor's degree is worth the cost, while a strong majority say it is not. That represents a dramatic turnaround in a relatively short time. Democrats have also become more skeptical, though to a lesser extent. A decade ago, well over half of Democrats said college was worth the cost. Now that share has dropped noticeably, but not as sharply as among Republicans. Over the same period, the makeup of both parties has changed. Republicans have attracted more voters without college degrees, while Democrats have drawn greater support from those with higher levels of education. Even degree holders are losing faith. Perhaps the most surprising finding is that many people who have college degrees no longer fully believe in their economic value. Less than half of voters with degrees now say their education is worth the cost, a clear drop from earlier years when a solid majority felt it paid off. Among those without a college degree, skepticism has grown even stronger. Roughly a decade ago, this group was close to evenly divided on the question. Now, a substantial majority of non-degree holders insist a four-year program is not worth the price, while only a small minority still sees it as a good financial bet. That suggests the cultural aura surrounding college has weakened both inside and outside the system. Cracks in the "college always pays" story. Many economists and policy analysts have long argued that, statistically, a bachelor's degree is a sound investment. But even some of them now acknowledge that there are growing exceptions, and those exceptions are starting to shape public opinion. Preston Cooper, a senior fellow at a right-leaning think tank, points out several ways in which the traditional promise can break down. Some students never finish their degrees, but still leave with debt. Others graduate in fields where employers pay relatively low wages or where job opportunities are limited. Still others attend institutions that charge very high tuition without delivering commensurate returns in the labor market. Each of these situations chips away at the old rule of thumb that a bachelor's degree always pays off. As more people encounter friends, relatives, or co-workers in these scenarios, skepticism spreads. People begin to see the degree less as a guaranteed investment and more as a high-stakes bet, one that can go wrong in expensive ways. The surge of alternatives, vocational paths rise. One clear consequence of this changing mindset is a growing interest in non-traditional or shorter educational paths. Technical training, vocational programs, and two-year degrees have become more attractive options for many students who want practical skills and a quicker route into the workforce. Some observers say students today seem more cautious about taking on the financial risk of a four-year education. Instead, they increasingly explore any pathway that can get them earning sooner, whether that's an apprenticeship, a certificate in a skilled trade, or a community college program. This doesn't mean four-year colleges are disappearing, but it does mean they face stiffer competition from career-focused options that promise clearer, faster returns. STEM versus softer degrees, a growing divide. The debate gets even more heated when people start comparing types of degrees. Josiah Garcia, a 24-year-old in Virginia, recently decided to pursue a four-year engineering degree after working as an electrician's apprentice. He sees a direct link between his chosen field and higher future earnings, which makes the investment feel more justified. However, he does not feel the same about every major. Garcia notes that many of his friends who studied